I'll play our national anthem. Jai. Thank you, members. So Merry Christmas to all of you. Yeah, it's a surprise. So Secret Santa will be there shortly. So now to start our today's session, and it's on a Christmas day. So let's start with one again शायरी. ना पूछो कि मेरी मंजिल कहाँ है, अभी तो सफर का इरादा किया है, ना हारूंगा हौसला उम्र भर, ये मैंने किसी से नहीं खुद से ही वादा किया है. Our resolution should be being into the professions. In every steps of our profession, we are bound with the ethics. And today also we have the topic on the recent changes in the code of ethics, and we have with us very eminent speaker Vaze sir. We welcome you, sir, with a round of applause. Being a December, and as we all know our CP guidelines, the structured CPRs on the code of ethics and the auditing standards, it is mandatory. So we thought let's have the sessions on the code of ethics and auditing standards, so that the members who have not completed the structured CPRs on these two topics, they can complete they can get the structured CPRs within the time. So 31st December. So we request all the members to please complete your CPRs, structured, not structured, right? And if you have not filled up the unstructured CPRs ka form, please log in onto the Institute CP portal and fill up that unstructured CPRs ka form, so that your CP credit can be given before the 31st December. Now, without taking much more of time, I would request our today's coordinator, Sri Ankush Gupta ji, to formally introduce today's speaker.
Very good morning and Merry Christmas to everyone. As we all know, we chartered accountants are known for our technical knowledge and ethical practice. Time and again, lot of changes have been done in code of ethics. Understanding the ethical framework can guide decision making and help preserve the reputation of chartered accountant. And to make us understand, we have with us today Director and ex-chairman of Jan Kalyan Sahakari Bank Limited, a very senior chartered accountant, C.A. Chandrasekhar Narayan, was having experience of more than 40 years. He has delivered lectures and written articles on taxation, banking, and allied subjects, and also on code of ethics. He has also delivered lectures and written articles on Valmiki Ramayan, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, and other social subjects. He is recipient of Best Social Worker Award from Senior Citizen Association Mulund, and also recipient of Jal Dastur Award for Best Feature in BCA Journal. Friends, with this brief introduction, we welcome Vaze sir with a huge round of applause. And I would request convener and deputy convener and Seema Madam, Nidhi, please to join for this memento. With this, we welcome sir, and sir, the stage is yours, please.
अरे वाह सर, थैंक यू। हाँ, yeah, I sit there, don't worry. I didn't sit there. Yeah, okay. इथून करू ना, इथून ओके ओके आधी Namaskar and good morning.
Good morning.
Jayesh bhai had already wished you Merry Christmas. Mr. Jayesh Thakkar, Mr. Ankush Gupta, Madam Purvi, Madam Seema Mehta, who has specially come to see me, although she has a travel plan today, and friends. Usually, Code of Ethics is a subject where subject का नाम सुनते ही लोग जरा दूर जाते हैं. But unfortunately, the CP hours have been thrust on us. Therefore, occasionally there is a good attendance. But I have always observed that here in JB Nagar, people are more serious about academics, about learning, about upgrading of knowledge. In fact, here in this very study circle, I have spoken at least 4 or 5 times. Once I was invited by Seema madam. But yes, it's always good to be here in JP Nagar, which is considered to be one of the biggest and the best study circles in the country. So all of you deserve compliments on that. And this is thanks to such conveners and the tradition. See, the topic is recent amendments. Now, ethics are age-old principles. So amendments are only marginal. Basically, recent amendments are fortunately pertaining only to the large companies, listed companies. At our level, there are very few amendments. Those, of course, I will be dealing. But before that, we must know what is this code of ethics, what is the implication. And I assure you that I will not be giving any pravachan or sermon. In fact, Ankush bhai avoided that part of my introduction which was related to Sanskrit language. And I happen to be the president of Sanskrit Bharati, which spreads Sanskrit. And I have been directing plays in Sanskrit language. So, by mistake, I became a CA. Otherwise, I'm a man from theatre, fine arts and culture. Our motto song, one very remarkable thing I noticed was Purvi madam was singing that national anthem as well as that motto song. And this is very remarkable because, and I think she deserves congratulations on that. Because that means her voice is very melodious. Right? You sing? Yes, good. तो उनका एक गाने का प्रोग्राम रखिए आपकी पिकनिक में भी मिलता है आजकल गिविंग. So friends, अपना motto is यह एष सुप्तेषु जागरति. That means he who is awake when the world around is asleep. आज जयेश भाई ने बताया कि Sunday morning you have sacrificed your long sleep and you have come here. एक बार one Guruji came in the classroom and he delivered a lecture on the importance of mother. माँ का महत्व समझाया, माँ की महत्ता समझाई. After students were of course dozing. So after the lecture was over, that teacher, he made one backbencher stand up. He said, hey, you there, you stand up. And now tell me, who is superior? माँ श्रेष्ठ है या गुरु श्रेष्ठ है? वो बच्चा जाग उठा नींद में से, सर ये क्या क्वेश्चन हुआ? गुरु श्रेष्ठ है. तो गुरुजी बोले, अरे 1 घंटा मैंने माँ की महिमा आपको समझाई और यू आर सेइंग गुरु श्रेष्ठ. Why do you say so? Say, sir, a mother can put to sleep only one child at a time. Friends, code of ethics, I am not giving to deliver any sermon or pravachan, but I will be sharing with you the live experiences of about 350 disciplinary cases which I have handled so far. Therefore, don't worry. Last 25 years, ever since I started this particular activity as a social service to the profession, I lost my sleep. तो मेरा एकमेव उद्देश्य ये है कि out of sadistic pleasure मैं आपकी नींद भी हराम करना चाहता हूँ. 2-3 दिन at least you will not be able to sleep, and that perhaps will be the success of this particular presentation. Yayesha Suptechu Jagarti was from Kathopanishad, which was recommended to our institute by Maharshi Aurobindo. And when I am speaking, this PPT has not much relevance. It is circulated to you, so you can at your leisure refer to it. But I'm not very particular about the PPT because mostly I'll be telling you the live experiences and the stories. The first and foremost thing in ethics you should learn is don't do anything in good faith. If you do anything in good faith, you are sure to invite trouble for yourself. Husband, wife, both were chartered accountants. Story. Husband, wife, both were chartered accountants. Wife did the audit for 3 years of a cooperative society. Thereafter, because they are practicing as separate proprietary concerns, then the husband did the audit because there is a rotation. And in the 8th year, there was a divorce petition between the two, and the wife filed a complaint saying that the husband took the audit without communicating with her. So this is the reality of life. No relationships are permanent. That you have to always bear in mind. Anybody complains, anybody and everybody, your staff, your article, your partner, your close friend, your parent, your brother, sister, co-director, and even your spouse is capable of complaining against you. For that, she need not be a chartered accountant also. Because there are many occasions where the spouse has complained against the chartered accountant. So please remember, no relationships are permanent. We move on to the other case law in the sense, other practical cases, because I will be dealing only with the practical cases, and through that, because that has been our tradition, Panchatantra, Hitopadesh, Isap Niti, that through stories we learn things. So, chartered accountancy is known to be, unfortunately, a spineless profession. We are not assertive. There is a crisis of courage. We lack courage. We are not able to say no to anyone. We are too accommodative. We cannot put our foot down that we will not accept this nonsense in the accounts. कितना भी बड़ा फर्म हो, कितने भी सीनियर चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट हो, उसको क्लाइंट के सामने मान झुकाना ही पड़ता है. That is the reality of life. Unfortunately, that is why many chartered accountants are running away from the attest function. They are fed up, they are tired, and they are afraid. It is very easy to say on the dais, अपना dignified profession है, glorious profession है. But reality, we know. So we need to introspect. There is a need for awakening, friends. And that awakening is that we have slogged so much for getting this degree. We have slogged so much for maintaining that. But when it comes to small things, we compromise. And basically the ethics, remember, you are either ethical or unethical. There is no in-between stage. You cannot say by and large I am ethical. That means you are unethical. So the reality is that code of ethics should not be perceived as a burden on us. It is a shield to protect us. Our mindset about the code of ethics is negative. हमारे माथे पर ही ये क्यों burden है? Why it is thrust only on us? दुनिया कुछ भी करती है, lawyer कुछ भी करता है, doctors are behaving any way they like. Why only chartered accountants? Because friends, chartered accountant, the very foundation of our profession is our credibility. And unfortunately, we ourselves have never recognized the value of our signature. We have allowed the clients to use our signature to take us for granted. And why is it happening? Because we are not united. There is no collective action ever done by any chartered accountancy organization. Here in study circles, branches, we only discuss academics. ये केसवा ऐसा है, इसका कॉमा इधर चाहिए था, then interpretation ऐसा है. But we have never ever discussed as to what we should do to re-establish the respect of this profession. We have never made any representation strongly. We don't do anything without extension of time. We are begging to the government. Why? Because we are not following our ethics. That is why the government also looks upon us as only government servants. हमारा जो existence है, survival है, that is because of government's laws. Remember, that is why हम आवाज चढ़ा के we cannot raise our voice. In Satyam's case, when they represented that if such a large reputed international corporation having won the Golden Peacock Award for governance, if they are showing in their balance sheet 10,000 crores of rupees fixed deposit in the bank, and they are also showing us the receipt, should we not trust them? The only reply the finance minister gave was, if for 10,000 crores of rupees of deposit, if the world cannot rely on an auditor's certificate or signature, then why is audit required at all? Good faith mein kar dalo sab. Professional skepticism. The key word about the code of ethics and our work is professional skepticism. What does it mean? It doesn't mean that you suspect everything. You trust but verify. You trust but verify. We are not fraud detectors. We are not investigators. But unfortunately, the present trend in the institute in the disciplinary cases, and if you want the code of ethics recent changes, the changes are in the attitude. Changes are not made in the rules. Changes are in the attitude. That now your small error is also looked as or perceived as negligence. Recently, the chartered accountant had not put the date of signing, and he was considered as professionally or negligent for misconduct. So your errors are now perceived as your misconduct. Now that earlier shelter was there, auditors are only watchdogs and not bloodhounds. But now it is not so. That principle has been diluted. Now people expect that you should be bloodhounds. All the scams, all the scandals, all the ghotalas, chartered accountants are expected to detect them. Why? Because the technology is there so that you are now relieved of your routine things, routine burdens. And therefore you should be able to focus on, I'm not necessarily saying frauds, but what could be the irregularities. One of the recent amendment is NOCLAR. What is NOCLAR? Non-compliance with laws and regulations. So if you come across any non-compliance with any law or regulation, then you are supposed to take cognizance of that. You are supposed to take it to the management. If they don't listen, you are supposed to take it to, means you have to escalate it and escalate it to the higher authority, the regulator in that. For example, you are coming across defaults under labor laws. Then you are supposed to take it at a higher level. And ultimately you are supposed to report it. Now, ye NOCLAR aane ke baad immediately many big firms have given up many of their audits. What does that indicate? That indicates that irregularity is the rule of the day. And what are we doing? We are only playing the motto song, Yesha Sukteshu Jagarti. And it means that a chartered accountancy profession is equated with the ultimate truth, that is Brahman or Atman. And day in and day out, we are committing misconduct because we are compromising with the truth. This is very unpleasant thing, but yes, it is the reality, and that is why the respectability of our profession has gone down. We have to be very critically re-examine our own conduct and behavior. In US consulate, friends, I don't mind even if it is getting recorded, but there in the checklist, there was a one item was, please avoid bringing chartered accountant certificates as the same are often found unreliable. This is the reward given to you by US Consulate. We raised our voice from the Bombay Chartered Accountants Society and this sentence was deleted. But can you erase it from their mind? Because how we certify the assets of the parents of the person, boy who is going abroad for education? Remember, he always comes to you one day prior. Kal subah 7 baje uska interview hai. That person is not even known to you. He is your relative's neighbor. You don't even charge him. You are aware how he has created the assets. Still you certify. And you don't charge him and still you get a reward that please avoid bringing chartered accountants. This is the perception of the society about our profession. It's a hard reality, friends. And that is why people are now running away from the attest function. This is our core function. Without attest function, what value the CA profession will have? It will not have any value because taxation to koi bhi karta hai. Ordinary ITP perhaps gets better results because we are academically sound, so we cannot compromise below a particular level. Then what we turn to is project financing and other, and we take pride that I don't do signing of balance sheets. I am a consultant. I am an expert in FEMA. I am an expert in finance. So this is the very core function. We are running away from that. Why this has happened is we are not united. Even bhajiwalas and rickshawalas are better united than us. If one rickshawala says no, at least 10 rickshawalas will say no to you. But if one chartered accountant says he will not sign, there will be 100 chartered accountants who are keen to sign that balance sheet. Is it not a fact? So friends, what dignity we are commanding, what respect we are commanding. And unless we are serious about it, in fact, the world study has shows that the professions which are going to be obsolete and outdated due to the technology, chartered accountancy profession is one of the top, at the top. Because see, now tax audit limit has gone up, banks are merging, another observation is banks are having, the bankers' perception, banks are having concurrent audit, internal audit, revenue audit, tax audit, statutory audit, but there is stock audit, but there is hardly any occasion where a fraud has been exposed by the audit by a chartered accountant. Now, why is it so? I agree that we are not fraud detectors, I am repeating, but then we are lacking courage. We are afraid of reporting something. I'll tell you another story now. In between, to keep you awake, I'll have to tell stories. A chartered accountant was handling the tax audit of a proprietary concern. ये PPT वगैरह सब छोड़ दो बाजू में. These are all theoretical things which I have mentioned. You focus, you concentrate on the live stories which I am sharing with you because that is a better learning. Now this person, that proprietors, his daughter comes to the office of the chartered accountant and she requests that she wants him to attest the ITR of her husband and mother-in-law. So he has the normal questions as to why it is required. She says, "Oh, visa ke liye chahiye, bank loan ke liye chahiye, something." Now she comes, he obliges. He had not filed the returns of those people. She had brought the hard copy, so she showed it, and then he verified from the computer that yes, this is correct. And then he certified in a correct manner. This is also an amendment, recent amendment. Yes, in the course of stories, I'll be telling you that there are recent guidelines as to how you certify, how you attest. You cannot say just true copy and sign. Because true copy and sign means world takes it as if you have verified and signed and you are certifying the income. Remember, we never certify income. We only say that this is the income declared by him in the income tax return. So we have to give a disclaimer. That is the guideline of the institute. So accordingly, he properly certified. Within a month's time, he received a complaint from her husband as to how, without my written authority, you have parted with the attested ITR to my wife. Because the wife had filed in the court of law a complaint for domestic violence against her husband. You can't trust anything now. In good faith, you do anything. Many people say, मेरा 30 years का unblemished career है, एक बार भी मेरे complaint. So then the reaction of the disciplinary committee is you consider yourself lucky that no complaint has come आपके सामने. Because जो पकड़ा गया वो चोर. Day in and day out, we are committing misconduct. Now the Kali Yuga is there. So in the Kali Yuga, or Kaljug, people say, in that credibility, trust, all has vanished. And two things now in corporate culture, even in big firms, आपके next neighboring table पे जो बैठा है उसके साथ you have to interact only by email. You cannot interact orally. Means आप chatting करो, picnic का chatting करो, ये सब करो, लेकिन as far as work is concerned, you have to necessarily keep it in writing. Because now the trust has vanished. Therefore, now this is work should not only be done, but it should be seen that it is done. And the greatest flaw in our chartered accountants, and what just now see, remember, I am not underestimating any of you. But before my eyes is an average chartered accountant, normal, I also belong to same category. मैं कोई आसमान से गिरा हुआ नहीं हूँ, लेकिन last 25 years, ever since I started doing this, I become a little more cautious. Otherwise, मैं आपके जैसा ही average practitioner हूँ. That firstly you have to keep in mind. First thing they ask in any disciplinary case is, where are your working papers? I'll share with you very recent incidents also. And we are miserably lacking in maintaining working papers. Miserable. Whereas there are some big firms where they work very little, but they create a lot of working papers. Huge heap of box files they will create. But we do 80% or 100% of the work, but we don't have a single working paper with us. That is taken advantage of. That you have not done anything, because you cannot show that you have done anything. So working papers, and in fact, along with this, I have also shared the PPT on working paper management. And that is not a topic of a lecture, but it is a topic of a workshop. And how you create the working papers, what is the training that you give? We only blame the articles. The articles are useless. They are concerned only with their classes and their exams. But are we devoting sufficient time to train them? Who will create the working papers? Only so far in 25 years, only last week, I was first time invited in a firm who were having some 80 or 70 or 80 staff members, and they invited me only to ensure that their in-house things, audit, approach, and attitude. Because this, हम क्या करते हैं, स्टडी सर्कल, विकासा वगैरह, huge lecture arrange करते हैं, and we take pride. 1,000 students attended. That has no meaning whatsoever. There should be a compact attendance with proper workshop as to how you create working papers, what is the need, what is the methodology, how you preserve them. This is required. And remember, friend, this you are doing not to help the students, but you are helping yourselves. Because our assistants are not capable. They are not aware of the code of ethics. They are not aware of the new trends. Are we, what we do? नया आर्टिकल कोई आता है तो भेज दो उसको ऑडिट के लिए. Is there any audit permanent file maintained by us? People have not even bothered to see what is the constitution of that entity. What is the method, memorandum of association? What are their articles? What is the organization structure? What is the authority structure? They are not aware, and therefore we are not able to explain to the articles their theoretical study with the practical aspect. Therefore, they have no interest. They say audit means vouching. Beyond that, they don't go. Very few intelligent articles go beyond that. But otherwise, according to them, audit is nothing but vouching. We have to upgrade our staff so that they will help us in discharging our duties properly. Somehow this realization is more important. Otherwise, every day, every minute, we are incurring a risk. And the next is, first is, work should not only be done, but it should be seen that it is done. And the next is, remember, faintest of ink is stronger than the strongest of memories. आपकी memory कितनी भी हो, it has no meaning. Have you written it? Have you put it on black and white? This is ultimately the thing that will be verified everywhere, because it is creating evidence. Standards on audit, code of ethics, all that we see only for compliance. कि इंस्टीट्यूट ने अपने माथे पे मारा इसलिए 2 लेक्चर उसके होने चाहिए, इसलिए दिसंबर में मेरे को एवरी डे दे आर इनवाइटिंग. Yesterday I spoke at Ghatkopar, today here, tomorrow at Pune, then at Vijayawada, and then at Kolkata. Of course, last 2 are online. So basically, chartered accountants are perceived as a community who manage everything. People don't look upon you by respect. Please take it from me. They don't respect you. They take you. लोग क्या बोलते हैं? अरे किसी सीए को पकड़ के करवा डालनी. Why so? Why are we downgraded our own profession? We are excessively accommodative. So, chartered accountants manage even their CPE hours. When I go outstation for lecture on code of ethics, they proudly tell, sir, 250 ka enrollment hai. I say, very good. But before me, there are only 30 members. And all are getting CPE. So who is committing misconduct? The conveners? Two or three recent case laws I'll discuss. In fact, friends, this is minimum thing I require is 4 hours. Because these are all live stories, which is 300 cases. But at least even if I share 30 stories, you can imagine what time it will require. At least as an entertainment, you should always keep this lecture. We are not going to learn out of it, I know. But this learning and awakening is important. There was 2 recent decisions. One is whether a chartered accountant is liable for misconduct in any capacity and at any time he is there, or only when he commits a misconduct and in the capacity only as a chartered accountant. Whether his presence in that situation is whether as a chartered accountant, or for example, suppose a chartered accountant misbehaves with a female. Whether it is necessary to see whether he does it in his office or in a CA, other CA's office, or in a client's place, or in a CA conference where his presence is because of that he is a CA. Or we have to see any capacity is present. For example, he is attending private function. He is having a holiday tour. Even then you have to see it, and the court said yes. Anywhere he is, the behavior and the conduct of the chartered accountant should be exemplary. Like Bhagavan Ramchandra. Why? Logic is simple, friends. How the press reports it. Chartered accountant held for bribery. Chartered accountant held for creating or masterminding the Ghotala. This is the press report. This is in social media, it will come like that. So the entire profession is at stake. The entire profession is going to suffer. Why institute is so particular about it? Because one person committing a misconduct, it affects the entire profession. Chartered accountants perception is different. Now, as I told you, please avoid bringing CA certificate. This is the perception. So one person, one quack in the profession spoils the image of the entire profession, and council is very much concerned with it, and rightly so. We say that वो हमारे माथे पे burden है, and then this question was put to Swami Vivekananda that see direct doctors, lawyers, बाकी सब लोग कुछ भी करते हैं. Why only we should behave ethically and let people improve, then we will also follow. Swamiji said, it is like saying that you are standing on one bank of the river and saying that I will cross the river only when the entire water flows away. You are the leaders, friends. We are the intellectual leaders of the society. Are we the followers of the society? कोई भी कुछ भी करता है and then we have to follow? Or we have to lead the society? This question we have to ask ourselves. And that is why the new generation is not coming in the profession. Now, Purvi madam is there because she might have some you can say the family tradition of the profession, perhaps. But otherwise, it is now new generation is not coming. Why? They consider our profession as only that of file pushing. And unfortunate part is that I don't blame any generation or anything. But yes, we have been very accommodative. And we are doing everything in good faith only. Beyond that, we don't go. Why I say that there is not much change in because the basic principles of ethics are age-old principles. Thousands of years ago, this was contemplated in our Sanskrit scriptures. Basically, the foundation of this code of ethics is only 3 principles, which earlier sages, the Rishi Munis, they used to give to their pupils, their students, the messages after they completed the education. Satyam Vada. Satyam is not Satyam Corporation, but Satyam Vada. Means speak the truth. We are supposed to certify true and fair. So speak the truth. Dharmam chara. What is dharmam? It is dharmam is not worshipping. Puja vagera dharma nahi hai. Dharma is what? Duty. Perform your duty religiously. That is dharmam chara. And the last is swadhyayat ma pramadha. That means pramadha means error, default. Swadhyaya means continuous study. In your continuous study, you can never commit a default. That was CP. So CP hours were contemplated thousands of years ago. It's a fact. 12 saal they used to stay with the Guru and they used to come back, and this was the message. Swadhyayat ma pramadha. But how much we are putting efforts? We are just attending some lectures, CP hours, but how much study we are doing? But I also understand that so much of over-regulation is there. कितने साल तक हम नया सीखते रहेंगे? That is also a reality. We get tired, and now it is all technology based. So friends, here there are both sides of the coin. So it is the observation, rather we are having too much of obsession with the taxation. Our earlier generation, they were only engrossed in the taxation. They were not recognizing any other law at all. Income tax में चलता है तो बाकी सब ये. That was something like a gospel truth. There was a firm, 75-year-old, very reputed firm. All systems were in place. There was a private limited company whose audit they were doing for last 25 years. That company had only 2 directors, 2 shareholders, elder brother 60%, younger brother 40%. Once the younger brother comes to the office of CA 4 days prior to the, like for example, 31 December is the last date, so he comes today on 25th. And chartered accountants offices are supposed to be open on all holidays and all 7 days. Because people are taking us for granted. Can we ask a doctor to open his dispensary for us on a Sunday? No. But a client can ask us to keep his office open even on any day. We are not able to say no. And that is why we have lost respect. Once you learn to say no, your respectability will go up. But we are afraid that a client chala jayega. That feeling of insecurity was always there. So this younger brother comes, he says, sir, as usual, you put your signature on the balance sheet. I will take this balance sheet because my elder brother is busy with some his visa formalities. I will obtain his signature and as usual, and you submit the return. He takes, in good faith, chartered accountant signs. He takes, and then it is submitted. But this younger brother obviously had a dispute with his elder brother. Remember that any business relationship concerning finance and commerce ultimately and eventually is bound to result in disputes, bound to result. The dispute is unavoidable. And once 95% of the disciplinary cases arise due to dispute among some other parties, and they make chartered accountant as a scapegoat because it's a soft target. कोई भी उठा के chartered accountant को harass कर सकता है. In fact, in all my 25 years and 350 cases, I have never ever represented a complainant because वो मेरी प्रतिज्ञा है कि मैं complainant की ओर से कभी नहीं जाऊंगा. I will always try to defend a chartered accountant. क्योंकि कंप्लेनेंट के लिए कंसल्टेंट की जरूरत ही नहीं है. चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंसी प्रोफेशन इज सो फ्रेजाइल एंड सो वल्नरेबल कि कोई भी छोटा पत्थर उठा के मारेगा तो इट विल डिमोलिश्ड. बिकॉज हमारा जो वर्किंग पेपर है, हमारा जो मेथड ऑफ वर्किंग है, इट इज सो वीक दैट कोई भी आके क्वेश्चन पूछेगा तो परहैप्स वी विल हैव नो आंसर. Whatever I am talking, it is not a very pleasant thing, I am aware. But unless we are made aware of this reality, we are not going to improve. Chartered accountants का क्या रहता है, हमेशा कोई भी rule आएगा ना, तो his first reaction is how to bypass it. And secondly, कि नहीं करेगा तो क्या होगा? These two questions first we ask ourselves. We are never compliant, and then we need extension because we are not proactive. We lack courage to tell the client that if he comes after a particular date, we will not be able to render service to him. ऐसी ताकत है हमें किसमें भी? We don't have. So this person, the return is filed, and next month that chartered accountant, 75 years of seniority of the firm, receives a complaint from that director on 2 counts. This younger director obtained the signature of the elder brother but never put his own signature. He had that scheming mind. And the first complaint was a chartered account, a private limited company's balance sheet or financial statements are supposed to be signed by 2 directors, but here only 1 director had signed. And yes, good faith, friends, good faith. Right from beginning, I'm telling you, good faith mein kiya, wo is going to invite trouble for you. We always put our signatures first and then send, many times. So this was the first ground. Now here also many people are having a lot of misconception. We feel that 2 directors have signed means now aram se we can put our signature, which is not so. The relevant section under the Companies Act, subsection 3 says that the signatures will be put by the 2 directors or 3 directors. But the first subsection says, earlier it was section 215. Now I think, I don't know exactly, 213 Act mein kya hai. It says that account shall first be approved in the board meeting. And in that meeting, there is a resolution passed that these 2 directors are authorized to put their signatures. What is utmost of primary importance is approval in the board meeting. Now friends, we chartered accountants do almost everything for a client. We only finalize the accounts. We only put it in the prescribed format. We only prepare notes on account. We only prepare director's report. We only prepare management representation. Everything we do. Because client feels, हमारे ये कुछ काम का नहीं है ना, all this you are doing for yourself. आपके इंस्टीट्यूट में और आपकी कंपनी लॉ में इसलिए that you are doing. We have no value whatsoever. Accounting standard वगैरह क्या है, हमसे कुछ लेना देना नहीं है. That means the person for whom you are doing has no value of what you are doing. That is why there is no appreciation. Forget about fees. तो बोले हमारे क्या काम का है ये accounting standards वगैरह. Unfortunately, we are not able to educate the clients. In fact, we should have more workshops for the clients. That if they don't do it, we are not doing it for our own. हमें शौक नहीं है ये करने का. But so two things the study circles should take more seriously: educating the client, telling them the seriousness of it. Otherwise, they will never appreciate what slogging you are doing. They are enjoying on a holiday. They are enjoying at the hill station, and you are putting round the clock. You are working during Diwali time to make the compliances because they don't understand the gravity. What you have done to make them understand the gravity? What you have done to make the trainees and the staff members to understand the gravity? We have not done anything. So अपना यही चलता रहेगा सिलसिला कि late night बैठो, alone you sit or only some senior colleagues. And every time the tension, every time begging to the government for extension of time. Actually, there is no express guideline, but I am told that in England there is a case, or rather there is a rule that you should maintain hard copies. But here it is silent, but you should be able to see at least the key papers. You should have the original hard copy. For example, you're there MRL or there's certain key or some third-party evidences, bank certificates that at least you should have. You have to use your discretion as to what copies are of key importance or very significant nature. Those at least you should have hard copy. But yes, it's a very valid question. Now today's scenario, soft copies should be acceptable, but you have to use your discretion as to what you can destroy and what you cannot, or what you should not. For example, in income tax also, what we preserve is basically the challans, the acknowledgement, the assessment order. Rest of the supporting you may destroy. So this was the first. So what is important? So now we do everything and we send the papers for their signatures. But one small paper, additional paper, if we add that these accounts were approved in the board meeting held on such and such date. Make a standard letter. Let the study circle prepare such letter and say distribute it. People will use it. Friends, usually from any business group, only one person interacts with us. And take it from me that eventually there are bound to be disputes among this person and the other persons. And then he says, हमारा ये जो डायरेक्टर था, he is having some collusion with the chartered accountant and उसने सब सत्यानाश किया हमारे accounts का और finance का. And they disown everything. They disclaim कि ये balance sheet, financial statement हमको कभी बताया ही नहीं. Meeting was never held. Show us where are the minutes. Show us where are the notices. The greatest lacuna among chartered accountants is that we are totally lacking in the secretarial work. Company secretarial work हम देखते ही नहीं है. And here they have to not only see the resolution, but whether basically the meeting was properly convened, whether the notices were sent, whether there was attendance record, and then whether finally the resolution has been uploaded. All these you are supposed to see. I have seen, unfortunately, the chartered accountants accepting the audit. Just a director writes to them that you have been appointed. But the previous auditor, they just so-called NOC. NOC का कोई mention नहीं है. In the act, there is no mention of NOC. It only says you have to communicate in writing with the previous auditor. But they write. But basically, whether you are appointed validly, after the communication, the next clause 9 of part 1 of first schedule is that you have to verify whether your own appointment is validly done and in terms of the provisions of the Companies Act. See, there were 4 partners. There was one very interesting case. 4 partners in a firm, and there were dispute. So two of the partners appointed one tax auditor and 2 other partners appointed another tax auditor. How can you prevent that? what do you do to ensure that whether you are the only tax auditor appointed by the firm? These things were, and you could never have dreamt these things, but now they are happening. Therefore, friends, writing, written communication is of utmost importance. So here I am advising you that at least have one hard copy every year, which is signed by all directors or all trustees, all managing committee members, so that at least first line of defense is there, that they cannot say that we don't know anything. At least your signature is there on the balance sheet. So prepare this kind of a letter. Let it be a standard letter saying that all these accounts were approved by the board meeting held on such and such date. This is to safeguard you. Whatever I am telling is for our own safety. And the next ground again is an eye opener. See, it is a nightmare. He said one of the cars was registered only in the name of the elder brother, and the auditor had not put any remark on it. Now either जो बुजुर्ग CAs है, they will come forward with argument. क्या हुआ? Even if it is registered in partner's name or director's name, depreciation मिलता है under income tax. So they will give me all case law. Arey, but income tax, you are not handling income tax, you are handling the audit. In income tax, the depreciation is allowed because of the beneficial ownership. But when you are certifying that these are the assets of an entity, you are supposed to verify whether the assets really stand in the name of the entity. And you introspect, I am leaving it to you. How many of us really check the registration of vehicles in whose name it is there? And we ourselves don't know, don't know the seriousness of it. So obviously we will not tell our staff to verify. Another important thing is happening, and because of these many frauds are happening, is firstly I told you secretarial records hum nahi dekhte. Secondly, registrations. I have seen chartered accountants certifying the balance sheet just based on the financial ledger and accounts. They never go beyond that. For example, there is an immovable property, what is the agreement, when is the possession taken, whether capitalization is properly done, are there any contingent liabilities, what are the other duties and responsibilities, and all that we are not concerned. They just go as per the financial account, the cost has been incurred, and they certify that. Whether it is really true and fair, we don't know. Same thing about the machinery. Whether what kind of machinery is there, whether it is installed, whether it is erected, whether it is commissioned, whether it is operational, what is the date it is put to use. Third party evidence, we don't have anything. We just go by the ledger account. People are accepting audits just on the basis of the director's simple director's letter. No resolution, they don't go beyond that. Good faith, friends, is going to kill us. One chartered accountant signed a balance sheet of the 4 other chartered accountants who were very close friends. They had done their articles together. And the collection of that particular other firm was 3 crores in the year 2000. And on one particular date, unfortunately, in the scrutiny assessment, it was revealed that there was a negative cash balance of 432 rupees. And the income tax officer coolly sent it to the institute saying that this is the way your auditors are functioning. I am not telling you any imaginary stories, friends. These are the real stories, real incidents. So this is one. Now you will ask me, why, despite such a long relationship, why that younger brother filed a complaint against the firm? And the answer is more nightmarish. He had approached the institute, the CA firm, with a request to accommodate his daughter as a dummy article, which the firm had refused. पर्दे के पीछे क्या होता है, that I am sharing with you. Because when you read the book of case laws, when you feel अरे बराबर है ये तो, ये उसने नहीं किया तो misconduct है, but why it happened is what I am trying to share with you. There are now 3 volumes published by the institute. Earlier, there were only 2 volumes, now 3 volumes. One is based on the International Ethical Standards, Volume 1, which is adapted by our institute for our Indian circumstances. That is Volume 1. There it is more or less a philosophical part of the Code of Ethics. Independent standards, वगैरह सब they are, and they have introduced. In the independent standard, if I tell you something which is really, you will be rather alarmed that on every audit, we are supposed to, the standards on auditing. And now apart from the Code of Ethics, I believe Institute has also made standards on auditing lecture. But don't look at it only for a sake of lecture. Don't look at it only for the compliance of CP hours. The real spirit behind standards on auditing is that you are supposed to take a declaration from all your audit team on a particular assignment that there is no conflict of interest, that he is not related to any of the person in the management. That article, your staff, you are supposed to obtain this declaration. Abhi you will ask me, कौन देखने को जाता है? Now I will tell you, कौन देखने को जाता है? I will tell you that story. All right, thank you. Recently, the new cases that have come are 2 types of cases. One is that a very large NBFC with a gotala of 31,000 crore rupees, housing finance. They are having statutory auditors. Last 15 years, they are appointing statutory auditors and they are writing to the branch auditors. There are about 20-30 branch auditors all over the country. They are writing that in consultation with the statutory auditors, you are appointed as the branch auditor. And they are giving all the terms and conditions. What is the methodology of checking? Everything they specify. Fees are paid by the company. But the report is addressed to the statutory auditor. And the only thing which they are supposed to see is the processing of the loans. They have done it. Now it has gone to NAFRA. Because there was a big scandal. It has gone to NAFRA. NAFRA has written to them, apart from the other standards on auditing, they have written to them first 2 things. One is that your appointment has not been done in the AGM. So you are not validly appointed at all. How many of us really verify whether your appointment is validly done? So this is the first lesson. That whether in the AGM there is a resolution. Otherwise, what is the way of, remember, good faith I am telling you, such a large corporate, thousands of crores of turnover, a very reputed corporation. They have an army of professional people at the helm of affairs. CFO, company secretary, everybody. Then company secretarial auditor. Nobody had noticed this flaw. How far that is important is a different story. But today NFRA has started harassing them merely on this. And then second, again very relevant for us, and which we are never complying, is that you have not issued an engagement letter, which is also mandatory under standard on auditing, I think 210 or 230. Now, how many of us are issuing engagement letter? Now they are arguing that, but there is an exception provided that if you are doing it recurringly for many years, then every time you need not give an engagement letter. Now, fortunately, these branch auditors are doing the branch audit for last 15 years. And the appointment letter is itself so elaborate with annexures as to how to carry out audit and everything, what you have to see. So that acceptance, that itself is an argument that we are making. But in reality, the standard requires, and since as you said, the recent amendments, it's not a recent amendment. Question is, this is the recent change in the outlook. So outlook is now changing. The attitude of the regulators is changing. And therefore, friends, so this is the two things they are facing. Another common cases which are coming up, set of cases is, as I told you, professional skepticism has to be there. Trust but verify. Large corporates, 5,000 crore turnover, closing stock worth 600 crore rupees. They approach, and their registered office, the business is in Ahmedabad. They approach some small chartered accountant situated in Borivali, Dahisar, asking them to certify the stocks worth about 400 crores, 500 crores. फर्स्ट थिंग उसके मन में आना चाहिए, इतना बड़ा चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट है, अपना कंपनी है, उसके पास सैकड़ों चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट, सीनियर चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स आर देयर, their auditors are such a big firm. Why is he approaching a small man like me for the stock certificate? This is the first question. See, I happen to be the director of a small cooperative bank, scheduled bank. When a large borrower comes, तो पहला क्वेश्चन आता है, ये हमारे पास क्यों आ रहा है? Take it from me, in all such cases, there was a big scandal, financial scam, and actual stocks were not more than 30 to 40 crores, but they are expecting him to end because in 3-4 days they are paying him 30,000 rupees, 40,000 rupees. तो वो बेचारा स्मॉल चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट क्या बोलता है, इतना बड़ा कॉर्पोरेट है तो सब ठीक रहेगा ना. That is deceptive. He should have refused. Now poor fellow is facing the disciplinary mechanism, disciplinary proceedings. But 30-40,000 rupees का क्या फायदा हो? He may spend more than 2 lakhs rupees in the proceedings. And if he is found guilty, and obviously he will be found guilty, then he will lose a lot of revenue. तो हम शॉर्ट साइटेड है. 25,000 रुपए फीस के लिए हम हमारा सर्टिफिकेट जो इतना हार्ड अर्नड है, that we are putting at stake. Please don't do it. And this is the tradition. Then it is followed by our younger generation. ये ऐसा ही करने का रहता है. That is hampering the image of the profession, and that is affecting all of us. So institute's motto is that, objective is that, maintain and uphold the reputation of the profession. And because of that, the code of ethics is that strict. Remember, the protocols are there, the methodologies are there, systems are there. For example, a doctor, he makes us to undergo so many tests, pathology करो, radiology करो, x-ray निकालो. We feel that ये इनका कोई रैकेट है and उसमें हमको वो फंसाते हैं. But remember, if he prescribes medicine without going through it, even if he gives proper medicine, still he may be held for misconduct because he has not followed the procedure properly. So if that is there, then in our profession also, yes, there are guidelines given, there are steps given, prescribed. If you show that yes, you have followed it, then perhaps the gravity of your misconduct or the punishment will be less. But this is the way you have to take it in a healthy manner. You have to take it in a positive manner. Many people are under an impression, मैं audit करता ही नहीं हूँ. ये झंझट कौन code of ethics का देखेगा? But remember, code of ethics is equally applicable to all functions, including advisory functions. Remember that when clients क्या रहता है, उसको कुछ कभी-कभी काम धंधा नहीं रहता है, तो he will give you a phone call, ask you something about capital gains. You will spend so many hours on that. You will write that. बाद में वो बोलेगा, नहीं बाद में वो आइडिया मैंने ड्रॉप किया. Habit developed that if anybody asks you anything, before making any inputs from your side, ask him to send the query in writing. your proceeding sheet. What we learn from the income tax offices, how their proceeding sheet they are maintaining. Why can't we follow that system in our office as to what is the communication with this particular client? What happened? There are many things. What's the time? And there are too many things I have to share, provided all of you are interested. So, another half an hour. So then I'll have to speed up. Actual cases, we have already seen why a couple of cases. I told you about 20 cases so far. Volume 2. Volume 1 is that international standards. Volume 2 is the one which is directly applicable to us, that is CA Act, then rules, regulations, guidelines, notifications, all that is volume 2. And volume 3 is the case laws reported. Now there is another case law which is very well known. 2 cases so far we have seen. One was that auditor is a watchdog and not a bloodhound, but that is now diluted. Second was that wherever a chartered accountant goes, he is bound by the ethics, whether he is there as a chartered accountant or not. I'll tell you another interesting story and ask you a simple question. I'm not testing your knowledge, but interesting. There was a large corporate and there was a huge addition in their income tax assessment. They approached a senior chartered accountancy firm and the chartered accountants quoted them a fee of such and such percentage of the total additions made. Now the appeal was fought. Partial relief they got. And when they sent the bill, the company said, you have done misconduct, unethical, because you have raised the bill as a percentage of the total addition. Now, what is your reaction to this? Because you didn't hear the facts properly. What he has said, I will charge on the entire addition, not on what relief I will obtain for you. Then it is results. Why he charged on the entire addition is, he said, because I have to do the efforts for all your grounds of appeal. Suppose there are 7 additions resulting into 4-5 crore rupees. Then each of these 7 additions have to do the input, no? Have to argue. And perhaps on all 7 grounds, perhaps you will get partial relief, perhaps. But my efforts are with reference to all the addition. So I am not charging you as to what result I am getting. The Code of Ethics says that you should not charge on the result of your work, based on the result of your work. I am not charging on the result of my work. I am charging on the basis of inputs that I am making. So this is the fine distinction. I hope you appreciate this. So that is why you have to study the things minutely. That this is the wording. So another case which was there is that they say, court said, any error is not a misconduct. Even a blunder is not a misconduct. Even a negligence is not a misconduct. It should be gross negligence. What is gross negligence? It should be, there should be an element of dishonesty or ill motive. Now, if you argue this way, they will say, if some friend comes, you know that he is a very honest person. You know that he is a good person. Your friend, he doesn't do any hanky-panky. But poor fellow is not understanding the account, so he brings your balance sheet. And you sign it in good faith. I didn't have any ill motive. I didn't have any dishonesty. But friends, it is a dishonesty. Why? Because your signature means that you have verified and signed. People take it that chartered accountant ka signature, that means he has verified. Because any signature without verification is a misconduct. You are misleading the world. that you have verified and signed. Whereas you have signed only in good faith. You are not verified. See, normally we are chartered accountants are obsessed with those ideas of tax considerations. So we feel, what is the time barring? If I tell you that this is the time barring, तो बाद में आप सोचेंगे मन में, हाँ तो इसका अपना जो लफड़ा मैंने किया है वो अभी छूट गया है. There is a loose type of time barring. It says that a complaint should be filed within 7 years from the date of the occurrence of the event which has been alleged to be a misconduct. For example, date of signing the balance sheet. So from there the meter starts for 7 years. But then there is a rider to it. It says that if the director is satisfied that now production of evidence is difficult, or completing or concluding the case, the proceedings is impossible. Only then. So suppose your evidence, there is no other proof required. Then even why 7? Even after 17 years also case can be filed. And I'll give you a very interesting illustration. And as people feel that मैं audit करता ही नहीं हूँ तो मेरे को ये code of ethics का कोई लेना देना नहीं, it's not so. There was a lady who prepared a will. She died after 12 years after preparing the will. When the will was opened, it was found that the chartered accountant had signed as a witness, but that lady had not signed at all. Good faith, friends, good faith. बेचारा सीए बैठा हुआ ऑफिस में, 3-4 लोग आए, सर ये जरा थोड़ा ये साइन करो, उसका कल सर्जरी है तो वी हैव बीन एडवाइस की जरा विल वगैरह बनाएंगे तो अच्छा है, तो यू पुट योर सिग्नेचर, विल इमीडिएटली गो देयर एंड ऑब्टेन हर सिग्नेचर. बाद में वो कभी आता नहीं है. इनफैक्ट व्हेन वी से द बैलेंस शीट वी सेंड फॉर सिग्नेचर्स, we come to know that balance sheet has not come back, and that we realize only when next year's audit we start. फाइल ओपन करते तो अरे लास्ट ईयर का बैलेंस शीट किधर है. Friends, after the due dates of compliance, you have to make at least an input of 15 days only to organize your files. That we don't do. एकदम हम रिलैक्स हो जाते हैं, नहीं तो अगले compliance के लिए जाते हैं. Whatever is fresh in your memory and mind, that time you should organize all the papers. Third party evidence. There was a company with 600 crore turnover. There was a bank loan from PSU Bank, 100 crores for machinery. They had some mines in Orissa. Their head office, corporate office was in Mumbai, 50 to 60 staff. The unit became NPA. As soon as the unit becomes NPA, there is a system in all the large banks to first scapegoat is the auditor. Perhaps 10 years ago or 5 years ago, their own manager would have had any collusion with the management and the loan must have been sanctioned. But now to protect their manager, they are filing a complaint against the auditor. And under the sun, there is no balance sheet which is foolproof. कुछ भी करो, कुछ ना कुछ flaw तो निकालता ही. Now, when the complaint came, this CA firm, they came to me, and obviously what was required was working papers to show that you have done the work properly. Work should not only be done, but it should be seen that it is done. And they showed such beautiful working papers that for me also it was a learning. And I complimented them. Yes, this is, I really, you deserve compliments. Hats off to you. Itna achhe working paper. Okay. We will send. After 18 months time, they came to me. Sir, now the institute has asked only 2 questions. Had you independently verified the bank balances by writing to the banks? And have you written to the debtors and creditors for confirmation of balance? About the first question, they said, sir, no, we had not written to the bank, but we have all the photocopies of the bank statements. I said, very good. And what about second? They said, no, we had not written to the debtors and creditors. Then they confided to me, with me, that sir, it was a CBI case. We were grilled, and the reality was that almost entire documentation in that company was fabricated, including bank statements. Can you imagine this? Faith. So bank statements were also fabricated. Recently, one case was reported in the press that the three hospitals have formed a trust, and they are helping the poor people, poor patients. 20 years ago, internal auditors were appointed and statutory. They are same or continued. They are good relation, good people, good auditors, internal as well as statutory. There was a sub-staff in the hospital whose son had passed. He was doing a BCom. So these chartered accountants, to help him as a social work, they trained him how to write accounts, everything they trained. His another friend was also there. So two boys, and they were employed now in this trust as accountants, and they were doing very good job. But last 10 years, they have started committing fraud. Last 20 years, they were the auditor, the CA firms. In last 8 to 10 years, they started committing frauds by diverting the funds to the fake entities which they had created. CA firms were signing everything in good faith. When both of them were, I think, on leave or something, some new accountant was appointed, and she noticed that invariably in many of the months, original bank statements were never available. It was always photocopies, and that also masked. In that very big hospital in Mumbai, there had been a manager lady, and what she was doing, so that is the third lacuna, fourth lacuna, that we don't verify the original investments or fixed deposits. In Vadodara, in a Goshala, there was a scam of 80 lakhs rupees. A trusted manager, 30 years he was in that trust. What he used to do, the governing body, they were all reputed people. Here also in hospital, all big surgeons were there in the trustees. So that lady, when the doctor was going to the operation theater, sir, ye jara, we have to break this FD because now we have to buy that machine. So he used to put signature, good faith. And she used to get it encashed, transfer the exact amount to her account because she was obtaining signatures like this. And then she was masking those entries, contra entries. So bank balance was pakka. But these people, auditors, never verified the actual fixed deposit receipts. Now you again introspect and you study for yourself as to how many of us are very much concerned about verifying the originals. And we have not trained our people to do that. So they had siphoned off, these two boys had siphoned off 6 crore rupees in last 8 to 10 years. And it was reported in the press. So now these poor chartered accountants, they are very decent people, very sober and nice, duty conscious people. But they said, yes, it is a misconduct because professional skepticism. Why every month or why every March? Only photocopies of the bank statements are there. So because of this, so these questions should arise in your mind. You are supposed to ask questions. We have never trained our people to ask questions. अपने हमारे आर्टिकल क्या बताते हैं सर उन्होंने कुछ बताया नहीं they never told us but first training is that it is your duty to ask have you asked them उनको क्या पता है क्या क्या relevant है but it is your duty to ask question is you have to ask because in what we write in the report is we have obtained means a positive act of getting obtained the information and explanation which was necessary for our audit. So it is your duty to ask. You can't expect, you can't take it for granted anything. दो किसान थे, वो हर एक, दिस इज स्टोरी इन इंग्लैंड, वो इंग्लिश लोग थोड़े फॉर्मल रहते हैं आपस में, ऐसे अपने जैसे चैटिंग नहीं करते। तो एवरी डे दो किसान अपने अपने बैल लेके अपने अपने खेतों पर जाते थे, और लास्ट 15 years they used to meet, only they used to say good morning and good night, beyond that they never spoke. One day one farmer stops the other, excuse me, आपका बैल बीमार था ना? He said yes. आपने उसको क्या पिलाया था? कुछ समथिंग ही सेड, टर्पेंटाइन पिलाया था। हाँ, टर्पेंटाइन पिलाया था। यस, थैंक यू करके निकले। बाद में 15 दिन के बाद अगेन, एक्सक्यूज मी, आपका बैल बीमार था ना? हाँ यस। आपने उसको टर्पेंटाइन पिलाया था ना? हाँ यस। अरे मैंने मेरे बैल को टर्पेंटाइन पिलाया और वो मर गया, तो मेरा भी मरा ही था। बट यू नेवर टोल्ड मी, यू नेवर आस्क्ड मी, सो इट इज योर ड्यूटी टू आस्क। And that asking should be recorded, the query should be recorded, there should be a communication. Work should not only be done, but it should be seen that it is done. So emails should be there, properly recording has to be there. So in this particular case, everything was fabricated, including bank statement. तो मैंने पूछा, आप कभी उधर गए नहीं माइंस? बोले हमको एक बार वो लेके गए थे, लेकिन वो माइंस देके अपने को क्या समझते हैं? That means again there you have to obtain the expert's opinion. कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटीज का काम कभी भी मत कीजिए, जितना हो सके उतना अवॉइड कीजिए, क्योंकि इन द कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटीज देयर इज यूजुअली नथिंग बट नॉन कोऑपरेशन। और टिपिकली रिटायर्ड लोग वहां रहते हैं, समटाइम दे आर फ्रॉम द अकाउंटिंग फील्ड, उनका एक ही उद्देश्य है कि मैनेजिंग कमेटी को परेशान करना, एंड इन दैट प्रोसेस चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट को हैरेस करना। There was a society, auditor was there, a lady, young lady, and she had certified the balance sheet. About 4 or 5 years ago, a society from Andheri only. 20 years ago, I had handled that case. The members obviously had some dispute with the managing committee. They said the society had sold its FSI about 4 years ago. They had fetched some huge amount. According to us, it is taxable. But this auditor did not mention anything. Our managing committee had not paid tax on that. Otherwise, income tax में कोई issue नहीं था, 143(1) वगैरह सब हो गया था. We will go to the income tax department. We'll get 148 issued. We will pay tax, interest, penalty, and we will recover it from this auditor. Auditor said, how am I concerned? I am only an auditor, I am not a tax consultant, which again is wrong. Because the standards on auditing, one of the standards says which other law you are supposed to take cognizance. And when you are certifying something as true and fair, then in such a large transaction, which may have a bearing on the tax liability, if you are ignoring it, it is not proper. Now, what she should have done, either if she was herself knowledgeable, there should be a working note that yes, 60 lakhs received as FSI. Well, what are the decisions? What are the experts' opinion on that? This is my note, so I feel that it is not taxable. Still, she should ideally mention that this was received and the management feels that it is not taxable. Alternatively, she has to obtain an expert's opinion. That is working paper. So working paper is to be consciously generated and kept, which we don't do. Third party evidence. Now here also what the institute said, if you had written to the debtors and creditors, perhaps this big scam would have been exposed much earlier. Because whenever there is sudden improvement in the performance, you have to smell that there is something wrong, something fishy. कि either इनको IPO निकालना है या कुछ बड़ा लोन लेना है, तो circular mode से inflate करो, turnover inflate करो, profit inflate करो. These are the usual tactics. Question should arise in your mind. That is professional skepticism. कि अरे all of a sudden इतना improvement कैसे हुआ? Once you start asking these questions, things are, that is the institutes and the society's expectation of from a chartered accountant. So third party evidence, year after year, Karo, Mao Karo, what we are writing is All the balances of debtors, creditors, lenders, etc. are subject to confirmation. अरे but 30 years में आपने कभी लिखा भी नहीं है confirmation को. You have never attempted to get the confirmations and still you are writing subject to confirmations. जितना बड़ा corporate है, उसमें you take it from me that there is certainly some chaos in the accounts. किसी भी बड़े corporate का accounts पक्का perfect नहीं रहता है. This is my observation and I'm saying this with full responsibility. And our clients who are SMEs, who are supplying to these big companies, they are afraid of asking a confirmation. And they say, वो नहीं देंगे हमको. भले नहीं देंगे, but you have to. Bank statements were not ever of a very large trust was there. Very, very good trust. That Commissioner Income Tax had some vengeance, some khunnas against the CA community, Bangalore में. So bank statements of 5 accounts were not there. See, out of 16 accounts. So the management said, very reputed management people, they said, that was a temporarily opened account somewhere. Now it is inoperative totally. It is not a single transaction. Hardly आपस में internal transfers होगा. So in good faith he accepted, but he never made any remark. If he had mentioned that 5 bank statements were not available, heavens were not going to fall. कोई बड़ा अनर्थ होने वाला नहीं था. Assessment was smooth, scrutiny 143.3, on some other ground there was appeal to the tribunal, everything was smooth. अगले साल there was another audit. And that time the bank accounts were traced. And there was a difference of only 20,000 rupees, which he adjusted in the account, saying that trust fund opening balance had adjustment of the preceding year. क्योंकि charitable trust को saving account निकालना is permitted and there some interest is given. Now 8 crore rupees के collection में 20,000 rupees was the addition. In that, not addition in the income tax, addition in the trust fund in the accounts. Again, no remark. Assessment was smooth, appeals were smooth, everything was smooth. Unfortunately, in those days, ATG had to be renewed, which is again now, in between it was not there. So in that ATG renewal, this assistant commissioner, the commissioner had a vengeance against chartered accountants. So he said, you examine the accounts. So he asked, ये 20,000 क्या है? Then they explained. Commissioner filed a complaint on one single day against 11 such chartered accountants. This is 2. There were some other flimsy matters. He has filed 11 complaints on one single day to the income tax. So I have to take so many things. I will 5 minutes चलेगा ना जरा जरा. क्योंकि लोगों की नींद अभी तक some people are still dozing, तो उनकी नींद भी हराम करना मेरा फर्ज है. So what was the case I was telling? Trust. Both the auditors were held guilty and their suspension was there for 3 months. Because they thought कि मैं ऐसा लिखूंगा तो ये client चला जाएगा. We are lacking courage. Fortunately, in those days, the final jurisdiction was in the High Court. So High Court में से they were only left on reprimand. The suspension was cancelled. But these are the things which are happening. Now I will take only 2-3 important subtopics. Firstly, the procedure. There are 4 authorities under the Act. Misconduct is defined as, now I will be a little quick, but finally I will tell you a very interesting story again as to what is the difference between legalistic and ethical. So, patafat now I will give. There are 4 authorities. One is director discipline, where there is a directorate, who are all bureaucrats. They are chartered accountants, lawyers, or they are qualified people. The first step of a complaint is before the director discipline. Then there is a board of discipline to deal with the first schedule cases. I deal with what is first schedule and second schedule. First schedule is those, what is the definition of misconduct? Any item stated in first or second schedule and other misconduct. So schedule में है plus other misconduct is anything that brings disrepute to the profession, which is other misconduct. So first schedule is the one where all the offenses which are stated there are within the profession. Outsider is not affected. For example, communication with the previous auditor, your own appointment, whether it is valid, or obtaining permission from the institute for doing any other business or occupation, or soliciting, advertising. Here, outsider is not affected. So these are first, they are considered to be of lesser gravity. So the punishments are also a little milder. So punishments for these first schedule offenses are reprimand, fine not exceeding 1 lakh, which is now proposed to be raised to 2 lakhs, and suspension for a period for not exceeding 3 months, but which is again to be increased to 6 months. Now, under the amendment. For second schedule, where outsider is affected, like your gross negligence, lack of due diligence. The distinction between gross negligence and lack of due diligence is, insofar as that firm had obtained the bank statements, you cannot say that they are grossly negligent. They have followed the normal system of audit, procedure of audit. You cannot say they are grossly negligent. But they did not write for confirmation, that is lack of due diligence. So this is the distinguishing feature. In facts, I am telling you by illustration. So gross negligence is different and lack of due diligence is different. If they had shown due diligence, many scams would have been exposed by, if you say, show just a small due diligence. Unfortunate observation of the government and all regulators and the society is that, as I told you, all types of audits are there, but there is hardly any scam which has been exposed by the audit profession. Hardly any, almost nil. So are we accommodating so much the clients? In that we are spoiling our own image. Anyway, that I think I have told you enough number of times. So then the Board of Discipline. Board of Discipline is consisting of 3 members. Earlier there were 2 Central Council members, 1 government nominee. Now it is the other way around. 2 government nominees and 1 central. And the president is the government nominee. Now you can easily see the trend of the government. Second schedule, the punishments are reprimand, fine not exceeding 5 lakhs, which is supposed to be raised to 10 lakhs, and suspension for any length of time. Any length. But earlier there was jurisdiction was with the High Court, and High Court में 30 साल से भी complaint चलता है. When we did our articles, that was way back in the year 76 to 79, there was a book written by a chartered accountant saying that planning for secret income, especially useful for government authorities, politicians, etc. For this, he was facing the disciplinary case, and the decision came about 5 years ago. When I was doing articles in the year 79, this case was there. The decision came about 5-6 years ago in the Gujarat High Court, and the council had recommended permanent suspension. High Court said, "Abhi is already 80-year-old. Abhi usko permanent." So the procedure: you file a complaint. It is either a complaint or information. Complaint को 2,500 rupees filing fee in the prescribed form. If there is information, then the institute writes to that informant whether you want to file a complaint or you have to remain only at the information. Information, so they say, if information means institute writes to them that once it is only information and not a complaint, then you are totally out of the picture as far as the proceedings are concerned. Then we will only let you know the results, end result. Whereas if it is a complaint, the complainant is continuously there in the proceedings. This is the difference. If the complaint is against a firm, they write to the firm as to who is the person responsible for this from your firm. So you have to identify the name, then, because the council has jurisdiction only on individuals and not against the firm. But now the recent amendment is that if in the same firm, if one partner is held guilty and within 5 years another partner is held guilty for any other misconduct, then the institute or the council can punish the firm also. So this is the recent amendment that you can see. Now, procedurally, complaint is sent to the respondent. Respondent is supposed to write his written statement or explanation within 21 days. Our chartered accountants are never proactive, so they wake up only at 11th hour. So they ask for extension, and which maximum 30 days extension can be granted. Then your written statement goes to the complainant. Many lawyers or they advise, let us not open all our cards just now. They are mistaken because there is no other opportunity to open your other cards. Whatever merits you are having, you have to do it at that stage only. So that thing is sent, the rejoinder comes. Then the institute's work starts. Till that time, they are just like a postman. Now they will scrutinize all this. The director discipline will decide whether there is a prima facie case of guilt. If it is a prima facie guilty is there, suppose there are 7 allegations. So they will say on 5, you are not prima facie guilty. In 2, you are prima facie guilty. Now, this is to be presented to the Board of Discipline or the disciplinary committee, depending on which schedule offense is there. If it is both under both schedule, then it is second schedule, means disciplinary committee. There again, earlier 3 council members and 2 government nominees were, now it is the other way around. 3 government nominees and 2 council members. Again, the president is the government nominee. So, prima facie opinion, then the Board of Discipline or disciplinary committee may either agree with the director or partly agree or disagree. So suppose this director discipline says you are not prima facie guilty. They will say no, he is prima facie guilty on these counts. Out of 7, they say on 5 you are not there. They may say no, in 4 he is not guilty, but in 3 it is guilty. Once you are guilty, even on 1, guilty, prima facie guilty, not guilty. Then there is a hearing. In the hearing, the committee writes a report, findings that whether you are finally guilty or not. Once you are held guilty, they give you one more opportunity for awarding the punishment. That here you cannot go take a counsel. You have to go alone. और उधर जाके उनका पैर पकड़ना करके you have to get the milder punishment. Then after the punishment, they pass an order. That order is appealable to the appellate authority under the Act. And appellate authority consists of 5 members, presided over by a High Court judge or a retired High Court judge, and 2 government nominees and 2 ex-Central Council members. So this is the appellate authority. There is no further appeal prescribed under the CA Act. So this is as far as the procedure is concerned. Now I will take you only 2 or 3. Because observing the time discipline is also a part of ethics, but we started a little late. And keeping the audience hungry is very unethical on my part. But still, अभी आप मेरे चंगुल में फंसे तो मुझे आपको नींद हराम करनी ही है. तो 2 or 3 very interesting cases. And also along with that, the principles. Principles I will deal with. The 4 or 5 principles are there involved in the disciplinary mechanism. Firstly, it is either on complaint or information that I told you. Secondly, complainant need not have any locus standi. Complainant का उस case से कुछ भी लेना देना नहीं है. He is not a shareholder, not a director, not a vendor, not a supplier, not a customer, not a depositor, not a lender, not a regulator. कुछ भी नहीं है. There are professional blackmailers. They just at random pick up any balance sheet और उसमें कुछ भी गलती है तो they निकाल के there are 2 over 25 years of my career, 2 blackmailers were exposed. Then so locus standi नहीं. Then he need not come with clean hands for justice. And what usually happens is when there is a complaint, the first reaction is that ये complainant is बदमाश आदमी है और मैंने उसके लिए इतना काम किया है, but he is now filing a complaint. So remember that institute has no jurisdiction over anyone other than the individual member. So they say वो बदमाश है. Is in the even the public domain it is known that he is a badmash, he is a criminal, he is a convict, he is in the jail, he is behind the bars. Still we are not concerned. We are concerned with your work. You show us you have done the work properly, because that spoils the image of the profession. So this is second principle. Third principle is that if anybody is aggrieved or not by your misconduct, that is also irrelevant. The tax case which I told you, that charitable trust was there, because of your wrong audit, revenue is not affected. Still, income tax department can file a complaint, which they did. Or you have signed a balance sheet on which the bank had given a loan was serviced properly, it was closed also. Still, if the banker notices that there were some flaws in the balance sheet, he can still file a complaint. So whether he is aggrieved or not is immaterial. Whether you compensate him, that is also irrelevant. Suppose you say, because of my galti, you have paid tax, interest, penalty, take this amount, I am reimbursing to you, and on the top of it, I am giving you some compensation. Even you cannot undo what you have already done. So the misconduct is, in fact, you are admitting misconduct. So remember that these are the basic principles about withdrawal. Earlier law, withdrawal was not permitted of the complaint. In between, they permitted the withdrawal. Now the recent amendment is that you cannot withdraw a complaint. That is another thing. Now, finally, to give you a relief, only two very small things. There is an executor and trustee company. You know that they execute the wills of the clients. There was a client whose will was being executed, and that deceased person's daughter was attending that particular interpretation. Now she said, no, interpretation of this will is this way. But the managers did not listen to her. They interpreted it in one way, because of which she felt aggrieved कि मुझे ज़्यादा मिलना चाहिए था मेरे पिताजी के property से, but नहीं मिला है. So she wrote to the directors. Directors also did not respond. So what she did, now to teach a lesson to the directors, she engaged some other chartered accountant to find the flaws in the audited balance sheet of that company, which had nothing to do with her grievance. Correct? So she did it. And our chartered accountants are very enthusiastic to work against the other chartered accountants because there is no unity among us. So he found out there is some 2 or 3 technical flaws, like AS3 cash flow statement नहीं report किया है, some other related party transaction नहीं report किया है, all this. So she filed a complaint to the ROC. ROC summoned 4 directors and the auditor. Directors explained to them that देखो ये lady ऐसी है, उसने ऐसा complaint. ROC also said, yeah, I agree, but अभी complaint मेरे table पे आया तो I have to decide. तो compounding हुआ. हर एक ने 5-5 हजार भरा, ऑडिटर ने भी 5-5 हजार भरा, बाकी सब सो गए शांति से. Institute ROC has a practice of sending all such irregularities to the institute by way of information. Now you will ask, who submits information? Usually such, because they are otherwise they are not affected. Nobody is otherwise getting affected monetarily or financially. It's a technical flaw. Therefore, they file. So usually information comes from the regulators like SEBI, Stock Exchange, RBI, where they find that yes, it is a flaw, but nobody is affected. एक बार एक CA था, उसमें now this chartered accountant is facing the music of disciplinary committee for last 6 years. They एक chartered accountant के society में एक लड़का रहता था. He was working with a share broker. He said, uncle, why don't you take safe brokership of my broker? The chartered accountant went. Firstly, he said, Baba, I cannot take. But he said, आप भाभी के नाम से लीजिए. तो he was holding a power of attorney from his wife, that CA. He went to that office of the broker. He filled up the introduction form, not the application form, introduction form. And down below, he put his signature and mentioned proprietor. Actually, he should have mentioned for proprietor. एक word for नहीं लिखा था. After that, within 4 months, he had done hardly any business. That boy ran away with the daughter of that broker. तो जो उसके थ्रू आया था, तू हैरा उसकी वाट लगाओ, correct? So he sent that form. He said, you are not obtained the permission of the institute and he is doing this business. Again, I told you, whether he is aggrieved or not is immaterial. So then we sorted it out. Now the last story. Really the last story, because I don't want to try your patience. What is the difference between purely legalistic approach and ethics? A chartered accountant, a joint family, his cousin, Chachera Bhai, was a vagabond. not of good character. But once he said, because all this family was connected with the film industry. So this vagabond cousin comes and says, मैं film बनाना चाहता हूँ, 6 crores is the budget. You give me a check of 60 lakhs, which I will show in the market and raise 90% from the market. बेचारा चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट कजिन को हेल्प करने के लिए इशूड ए चेक. उधर गया मार्केट में, 1 रुपया भी किसी ने नहीं दिया. But this person was not of good character. So what he said, when the third check was about to expire, he deposited it, got it bounced, and filed a 138 complaint against the cousin chartered accountant. Good faith, friends, good faith. Good faith में कुछ भी मत करो. Now, he managed, because in our country you can buy the court's decision. So he was convicted. 6 months imprisonment. He has filed an appeal to the High Court. Perhaps on facts he will succeed. But just by the fact that law में क्या होता है is not material. For example, you have missed out on section 50C of the Income Tax Act or 56 of the Income Tax Act, and you never advise the client that way. If the penalty proceedings are invoked, you can get the penalty deleted by many means. There could be a technical flaw in issuing the notice. There could be some case law. There could be some Kar Vivad Samadhan scheme, or you perform some magic in the income tax department and get the penalty deleted. कुछ जादू टोना करके. But that does not mean that you have not given the wrong advice. So law में क्या होता है is immaterial. These are the principles. I am telling you the principles of disciplinary mechanism. Law में क्या होता है is immaterial. Here also, there are two, even if he is acquitted by the High Court, there are two things which you have to keep in mind. What is the misconduct? What is unethical? While issuing the check, there was no balance in his account. That itself is unethical. And secondly, while issuing the check, he was aware that this check was never supposed to be presented. But that means he would have misled the market people. That अरे chartered accountant ने उसको 60 lakhs का check दिया है. Perhaps on the faith of it, तो मुझे 10 lakh देने में कोई problem नहीं है. This can happen. Therefore, there is a distinction between what is purely legalistic and what is ethical or unethical. Remember, you are either ethical or unethical. There is no in-between stage. Friends, I can go on and on and on, but I don't want to try your patience and also that of the conveners. I think the next speaker also must be there. But I thank the conveners for this wonderful opportunity. Very nice venue, but more than that, you deserve compliments because you are sitting patiently listening to all these frightening things, stories. So I wish that none of you, and your New Year resolution, it should not be New Year resolution because then it is never observed, but develop writing habits, have workshops for your staff. 4 or 5 firms together can have workshops, improvise your working, give thrust to the training, upgradation of knowledge. It is for your own benefit. Look at the code of ethics as a shield to protect you, not as a burden. Because you have to now accept, there is no, what you cannot cure, you have to endure. So you have to endure all this. So please take care of this and take things in a proper spirit so that none of you would ever be caught under the clutches of disciplinary mechanism. Thank you and Jai Hind.